Welcome. I welcome you all to this live interactive session of the course Introduction to Pāṇinian Grammar. Sadar Pranam, Abhinavji. Sadar Pranam. Sadar Pranam to everybody on this auspicious day of Ram Navami. I extend my greetings to all of you who are doing this course, all of you who are present for today's session. So, okay. So there are some questions which are raised in the discussion forum, and there are some which are also raised here. So the first is raised by Abhinava Chaitanya ji, who says regarding swaras. So two words that does not fit the explanation, Rama and Grama. First vowel of first word is Anudatta, whereas other is Udatta. Both have first vowel as as. Any rule left out. So I request you to be a little bit more clear because I'm not able to comprehend the question in this or the problem that you are pointing out in this. Read one sentence at a time. Yeah, sure, please. Rama does not fit the explanation. Explanation of what? So you have rewritten the same paragraph into separated sentences. So my question here is, what is the explanation that is in which these two do not fit? Explanation of rules of Swaras given in the lecture and the examples cited. Okay, so what is understood here is that in each word there is one udatta and the rest are anudattas. And so explanation of rules of Swaras given in the lecture and the examples cited. Okay, I think I will take note of this point because, and I will check about the explanation of rules and I will respond to this. Yeah, Ra of Rama is Anudatta, whereas Ga of Grama, whereas A in Grama is Udatta. So the rule says that in one word there has to be one Udatta. One Swara is Udatta and the other Swara is Anudatta in one Pada. Anudattam Padam Ekavarjam. That is the general rule, general maxim that we follow. So it is possible that Ra in Rama, that Aswara in Rama is Anudatta because of the Sutra Karshatvato Bhayanta Udattaha. So Anta vowel is Udatta. So the previous vowel A is Anudatta. And in grammar, A is Udatta. This is possible. That's why the rule I'm quoting again and again is Anudattam Padam Ekavarjam, which says that in one word there is only one Udatta. Now, which of these is an Udatta? That is dependent on the Prakriya many times. Sometimes it is also stated by some other rules. So if the question is regarding A, how can A be Udatta in one word and Anudatta in the other word? There is no such rule saying that A is always Anudatta. That is not the rule. A can be both Udatta in one word and Anudatta in another word, and that is possible. And that is there in the data. Okay, there are some other questions I would like to take. How can I clearly remember the sounds included in? This is one more word in the example cited. It is Shala, where Sha is Anudatta. Sha is Anudatta. Yeah, this is possible. Continue. How can I clearly remember the sounds included in different pratyaharas? So this is an important point, and that is the reason why in the lectures I have compared it with uh, the columns in the sound inventory that we learn from our school days onwards. So that is the easiest way to remember the sounds in the pratyaharas. And in the assignment, where some of you have raised some doubts, it is precisely the numbers of the columns that are referred to in the questions, and then a correspondence of those data with the pratyaharas is stated. And that is precisely why what is the question. And therefore, the doubts raised about those assignments, they need to be rechecked. Because I have checked myself the questions in the assignment. And apart from this fact, because I have often experienced this, students confusing this number that is referred to. For example, if the question says immediately after 4, 3, 2, 1, then this 4, 3, 2, and 1 refers to the column. And now you have to check in the Pratyahara Sutras where the fourth column, third column, second column, and the first column gets represented. And then you'll be able to form the Pratyahara, namely Jai. So Jabhagadada is the fourth column, Jabagadada is the third, Kapha is the second, Chatatta Kapha is the first. So columns 4, 3, 2, 1 means the Pratyahara Jai. I think this is how those numbers in the assignment, they need to be understood, they need to be interpreted, and then the questions, they need to be answered accordingly. I think that makes some sense. So that is one important way to remember how the pratyaharas are formed. And that is how the pratyaharas get constructed and can be also represented in terms of those columns. In fact, they are represented in that manner, with some change in the order, of course. There are some other questions which need some discussion, which need some clarification. So by the time I discuss them, you may also pose some more questions. I will recheck some of your queries and add to the answers, the responses that I have given over here. So the first one is regarding so yeah, one of them is answered and some of them will be answered, but some of them will be answered even later on. The other student had posted some questions right at the top. Have they been answered? I think some of them are answered because otherwise I have checked and I have not found any problems with the assignment questions. They seem wrong, but they are not wrong. The only confusion probably has occurred because of the interpretation of these numbers, which I think I have clarified in the lectures. And this is my experience. Even in the course that I teach offline at IIT Bombay, some students do confuse uh, those numbers with something else, and then they also get into trouble if they don't get the questions, and they also feel that there is something wrong over here. Once this is clarified, then they are able to see the point of the assignment, the point of the question. So the overall point of the assignment is to precisely make you compare the sound inventory that is presented in terms of rows and columns, and to match and to correspond the sound inventory with the pratyaharas. So for example, as I said just now, columns 4, 3, 2, 1 correspond with the pratyahara jai. Columns say 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 correspond with the pratyahara, that is yai, and so on and so forth. Columns 2 and 1 correspond with the pratyahara khai, etc. So there is a question about the form edhita. So the question is, which of the following its plays a crucial role in the derivation of the form edhita? And this derivation is explained when the purpose of the function of the marker d is explained. And the fact mentioned there is that there are some rules in the there are some rules explicitly stating the function of the anubandhas in the sutras in the Pāṇinian grammar, but there is at least one case where Pāṇinian grammar has not explicitly, in the form of a sutra, stated the purpose of the marker d, and that is what is explained. That is what is being asked in this particular question. And in fact, there is also a statement in the Pāṇinian grammatical tradition which extends the mechanism that is applied to the forms of the nominal roots or nominal stems or pratipadikas to the verbal roots or verbal stems. So, for example, the suffix d, which has got d as a marker, does indicate the deletion of what is known as t by the sutra tehe. So deletion of the verbal element which begins with the penultimate vowel or penultimate sound, the final vowel, and the element that begins with that final vowel. So this is what happens with the marker d to a nominal root. Now, the same phenomenon is also occurring and happening with respect to the verbal root. But there is no explicit sutra stating this. Just as we have a sutra tehe in 6.4, we don't have any sutra which states that the T part of the verbal root is deleted when the marker is D. This is not stated. And that is the reason why the later Pāṇinian grammatical tradition had to write a statement to this effect, which is what is often quoted when we do this particular deletion. So in the form of edhita, where the derivation stage is edhitas plus da. So this is edha plus lut, and we begin the derivation process. Edha plus lut, edha plus tas plus lut, then edha plus itas plus lut, then edha plus itas plus t, and t gets substituted by da by the sutra luta prathamasya daraurasaha edhitas da, and then da is the marker, da is the anubandha, and the sutra chutu gets the itsavnya to d. Tasya lopaha deletes this d. So we have a, editas plus a. Now because of the marker d, editas is an anga in which the portion which begins with the final vowel, namely a and as is that portion, that gets deleted. But that's what I'm saying. There is no explicit sutra which says this in explicit manner. There is, however, a statement in the later Pāṇinian grammatical tradition, most importantly in the text called the Vaiyakarana Siddhanta Kaumudi, which says, Bitva Samarthyat Abhasyapi Terlopaha. So this is what this line says, and therefore as gets deleted and you derive the form edhita, and that is the lut lakara pratham purusha ekavachana. That is what is derived. So that is the question and that is the answer. I hope this is clear. The comment was this is not clear. So I hope this is clear now. This is what is expected. Then there is another question on the suffix kt. So in the derivation of bhu plus t, which of the following gets triggers the negation of guna substitute in place of u? And the answer is k. This is not clear. So the verbal root is bhu, to which is added the suffix kt, and kt has got k as the anubandha by the sutra lashakva tadhite. And now the function of this k is to negate guna and vritti. This is the most influential, most popular function of the suffix, most popular function of the marker k. So the suffix t, which is having the marker k, does negate the guna substitution that is going to take place in place of u in bhu. And so we get the finally derived form, namely bhuta and not bhot. Had the marker k been absent over there, it would have resulted in the derivation of the form bhot. But now, because of the marker k, the derivation is that of the form bhut. I hope this is also clear to you. There is one more question, which is about the feminine suffix nib. So the question is, according to 4.1.15, feminine suffix nib is added to tit pratipadikas. To which of the following pratipadikas will it be added? And the accepted answer is gamana. This is very clear because the form gamana is formed by adding the suffix lit to the verbal root gama in the sense of bhav. So gama plus lit is the beginning of the derivation process, and then la becomes it because of lashakva tadhite, ta is it because of halantyam, and tasya lopaha will delete it, and u is substituted by ana by the sutra yuvaranakau 711, And then you have gama plus ana, and the finally derived output is gamana. And now this word gamana has got the marker, has got the pratyaya at the end, which ends in the sound t. And now the function of the marker t is to add the feminine suffix ni. That is what it will do. As far as Chudala is concerned, the suffix is lach. Pranista dato lach anyatrasyam. That is the sutra which adds the suffix lach to it. And lach has got ch as a marker, and that is not listed in the Sutra 4115 as the nimitta for the addition of the feminine suffix ni. And so feminine suffix ni would not be added after the word chudala, but it would be added after the word gamana because it is derived by the addition of the suffix which has got t as the marker. Gamana. Then there is an important question about lopa, which is explained in some detail in the lectures. So what does lopa signify in Pāṇinian grammar? Something exists implicitly, but not expressed explicitly. So it is clearly mentioned in the lectures that lopa means deletion. This is true, but it is also explained by saying the fact that prasaktasya adarshanam lopa. This is how it is explained in the tradition. Prasaktasya adarshanam. The Pāṇinian Sutra is adarshanam lopaha. Adarshana is non-visibility, when you are not able to see something. But what is non-visibility? What does it entail? It does entail that something exists, but is not visible to you. Now, where does it exist? It exists in the internal process, which is expected to take the manifestation in the form of a word form, and that word form is deleted. So, for example, if we want to talk about, say, the action of going or the action of leading, and in order to denote the action of leading, we would select the verbal root ni. Ni means to lead. And now we want to also talk about the person who leads. So the doer of the action of leading. That means we want to talk about the karta of the action of leading. So this karta will be expressed by certain suffixes, namely, say, truch or ak. Now we can say that there is implicit idea, implicit notion of karta, which gets expressed by the words through or occur, and then we derive the proper form neta or nayaka. So neta and nayaka mean a leader, one who leads. Now it is also possible to add grammatically a suffix quip to this ni or which is a suffix stated in the Pāṇinian grammar. So you could add one of them to the verbal root ni, and both these suffixes are zero suffixes. However, they do mean karta, and because they are zero suffixes, they will be deleted after adding them. Now, what this deletion implies is that there is prasanga, there is reference, there is cause for those suffixes being present explicitly in order to manifest, in order to express what is to be expressed in the form of the meaning of karta. But right now, in this case, even though the meaning exists, there is no the explicit pratyaya that is not there, and that is what is lopa. So I am explaining to you the relevant concept of lopa. Although lopa generally is translated as deletion, it is not, when we say deletion, the notion, the idea that is underlying, that needs to be clarified, and that is what is attempted to be explained, and that is what is tested in this particular question also. So the sutra defining lopa is adarshanam lopaha, and then the explanation of this adarshana is prasaktasya adarshanam lopaha. So what is prasakta? Prasakta means one which has got cause for explicit manifestation, and yet that explicit manifestation in the form of apratyaya does not happen. That is what is adarshana. So adarshana does not mean that I don't see in my class, say, um, say I don't see from my classroom window seashore. I can't say there is adarshana of seashore. Okay, because it's rainy today, so I can't see sun from my classroom window. So there is no adarshana of that. I can't say that because it is not prasakta. Only suppose, but the point is that there is a student who is supposed to be present, and that student is not present. So where there is cause for explicit manifestation, and yet that explicit manifestation has not taken place, or grammatically it has taken place, but we have removed it, only then we call it lopa. Only then we call it adarshana. This is how the concept of lopa in the Pāṇinian grammatical tradition should be explained. This is how it is explained, and this is how it should be distinguished from the concepts of abhava as stated, or distinguished or compared or contrasted with the concepts of abhava stated in other philosophical schools, notable amongst them the Nyaya philosophy of thought in Indian tradition. So in Nyaya philosophy, you have several abhavas, but when we compare that with the lopa, we have to be a little careful because lopa has got a particular um, implicit notion which needs to be grasped firmly. So I think that is why something exists implicitly. That means something has got cause for the manifestation, but is not expressed explicitly. So in case of the form ni, to which we already added the suffix quip or which, etc., we already added the suffix, but we don't see the suffix. So here we say that the meaning karta is to be expressed, but we don't have any explicit manifestation, explicit expression of that karta. So karta meaning by the verbal form like trach and occur. There is no such form there. And this is therefore we say that the suffix suffix quip or the suffix which was added earlier and now it is deleted. So this is what is the explanation of lopa. And this is what is the explanation of adarshanam lopa. Now there is one more question. In the derivation of the sentence Vande Mataram, I salute the mother, which sound is not stated to be an it by 134. So the point is that this is also explained in the lectures. The point is that the suffix, the sutra na vibhaktau tasmaha is negating the its saujna to ma, that is true, but the sutra halantyam is in fact giving the its saujna to ma. So 134 is assuming the its saujna given to ma. But the question is, in the derivation of the sentence Vande Mataram, which sound is not stated to be an it. So 134 assumes or states, first of all, that something can be it, but that is not what is stated to be it. But there is this sound na, which is not coming at the end of the word, whereas mataram, ma is coming at the end of the word, and therefore it becomes the subject matter of na vibhaktau tasmaha. So what does not get its saudhya because of 134 is na. So na is not getting its saudhya primarily because it is not appearing at the end of any verbal element. That is the intended answer, and therefore the answer is no in this question. Ma is quite obvious, but that is what is the trick. That is what is the misleading character of the question also. So na is the one which does not occur at the end of the element, verbal element. Ma occurs at the end of the verbal element. Therefore, there is negation, but this negation always assumes the statement, and that statement is done by the previous sutra halantyam, and so ma was getting its sotnya, which is what is negated by the sutra 134. But 134 cannot negate or cannot do anything about the itsodnya of na, because 134 cannot apply in in case of the sound na, because na is not appearing at the end of the element. It is appearing within. It is appearing inside the verbal element. So that was the explanation of the question. So these are some of the questions that are raised in the discussion forum. There are some other questions regarding the um, regarding the quality of the videos, etc. But those are out of my purview. However, I will, as I said to you, regarding this question on Anudatta, vowel, etc., I'll try to understand what exactly is the problem, what exactly is the question, what is wrong in it, and probably will try to answer it. But I think one answer that I have given here is about A being udatta in one word and A being anudatta in the other word. This is not a problem, real problem, because after all, yeah, so just as you have problem in getting some of the reference books, the problem also remains for us. Only thing we can refer to is you may buy those books from the respective publishers. The question is regarding reference books in public domain. Some of them are difficult to trace, like Fit Sutra, Shabda Sutra, etc. Is it possible that NPTEL load these books on site for those doing this course? So that is again a little difficult because there are some other issues. But I would say that there is a very good book on Fit Sutra that is published by the University of Pune and the Fit Sutras of Shantanava. That is a type of that is the book. And of course, when you study the Swara Sutras, Fit Sutras are obviously part of those sutras. So you will, if you refer to any, I think the text of Vaiyakarana Siddhanta Kaumudi is available online in the public domain. And if you check with the Swara Prakriya in this, there are spit sutras which are also part of them. So I think that would probably serve your purpose. There is one more question, and I'm not able to get wording of it. How do I decide the order? That I am not able to get. Oh, see, there are some. Um, you may also get um, this book on Fit Sutras on archive.org, but it is not possible, or I don't think it is good for NPTEL to, put it online. Put it. Maybe let's see if you have. So that's the reason why the text of Ashtadhyayi, which is published quite early on, that has been already um, circulated, and not the other ones. So I think those I request you to gather from the printed sources. Yeah, yeah. So some explanation. Sure, sure, you're right. Um, this is where we lack, and several issues they create some problems. And of course, I have noted this down, and I will prepare those. I couldn't do it or even earlier, but I hope I'll be able to do it soon for this course. The explanations of the answers. I will do that. Thank you. In fact, when I give, when I'm teaching this course right now, this semester I'm teaching Introduction to Pāṇinian Grammar at IIT Bombay. And here I could give some other different types of assignments, which I cannot give. Yes, yes. It will be possible to give the English meaning of the Mangala Charanas and sutras invoked at the end of some classes. Yeah, so this has been a practice that I have followed to introduce some Mangala Charanas of the very important texts, the celebrated texts in the Pāṇinian grammatical tradition. And by doing this in this introductory course, I believe that you will get introduced to some of the texts as well, very briefly, very briefly, but still the Mangalacharana will be there. So yeah, we will provide these translations. Of course, the translations of the sutras, I don't think we need to provide them here because you will be able to get them in the already translated texts of the Ashtadhyayi. There are many, very many. The one that springs to my mind is by S.C. Vasu, and I think this is also available on archive.org. Then there are some other translations, notably by Professor Ramanatha Sharma. Then the other translation is available by S.M. Katre, and then the translation is also done by my own teacher, Professor S.D. Joshi. And of course, there are other translations available done by Professor Cardona and so on. And some scholars have done this. So from these texts, you may get the meanings of those sutras. Those sutras are primarily given at the end to highlight the fact that the Pāṇinian grammar is an orally transmitted text. That is the point that needs to be highlighted. And um, and the oral transmission happens through the Vedic recitation because Pāṇinian grammar is considered to be a Vedanga, and because Vyakarana is considered to be the main Vedanga, so quite a lot of thrust is given on Pāṇinian grammar, and the text of Ashtadhyayi is recited and is memorized by the Vedic reciters quite regularly. This is done even to this particular date. Now, as a student, even I recited and memorized the text of Ashtadhyayi. And in doing so, I was guided by one of the stalwarts in memorizing Ashtadhyayi, namely Pandit Srila Atlekar, the Guru, Pandit Srila Atlekar. He is from Pune. He was from Pune, and he taught me to memorize the sutras in a group of 5 sutras. So he said to me that you don't waste your time in memorizing the entire section. What you should do is memorize only 5 sutras. Make a bunch of 5 sutras. And that will give you quite a strong base in order to memorize the entire text of 4,000 sutras. And he himself did the miraculous task of remembering a sutra if you give him the number of the sutra in the text of the Ashtadhyayi. This he could do following this particular ingenious method. And this is what he also taught me. And this is what I have introduced in this course at the end. Of course, the 5 sutras I have taken at the beginning of each pada. I could have taken them randomly, but I have not done that. I have chosen to remain faithful to the order by selecting the first 5 sutras in each of the 32 padas. And so the idea is that this will also give you some idea as to how the oral tradition worked as far as Pāṇinian grammar is concerned. So until a particular time, the sutras were composed, the sutras were memorized. Even the text of the Vyakarana Siddhanta Kaumudi. Yeah. So what logic do you follow in choosing the above? So the initial 5 sutras, they are just for easy comprehension. There is no, that is the only logic that they appear, those 5 sutras appear at the beginning of each of the padas. And because of the a limited amount of space and time, I could do only this, so that in a nutshell, I have recited those many sutras in covering all the 8 chapters of Ashtadhyayi and all 32 padas. So as I was telling you, the recitation of the Vaiyakarana Siddhanta Kaumudi was also part of the curriculum. In fact, I have memorized the Vaiyakarana Siddhanta Kaumudi at an early date also. And there are several scholars who keep writing about the Vaiyakarana Siddhanta Kaumudi who completely forget the fact that this particular text was memorized. And that is the reason why there are several comments which follow the oral trend of writing the meaning of a sutra and so on and so forth. That is very important. So this oral aspect of the Pāṇinian grammatical tradition is touched upon in this particular manner, in this particular recitation of the 5 sutras taken from each pada at the beginning. In fact, there is also a method in which one memorizes the sutras. One takes the initial letters of the first, the 21st, the 41st, and 61st sutra, and so on and so forth. So take 20 sutras as a unit and record the initial word of the 21st and 41st sutra, etc., and then make a sentence in which you weave all the beginning words of all these sutras, and you memorize that, and that will remind you of the bunch of 20 sutras that you should remember. But that we have not followed. We have followed the practice of the 5 sutras, which also has got some personal touch from my point of view. Okay, I think now our time is coming to a close, and within maybe a minute or two, we may have to close this session. I thank you all for. Is there a good OCD Sanskrit translator on the internet? Yeah, slides. Yeah, we will try to upload the slides as well. Is there a good OCD Sanskrit translator on the internet? So there is no such translator which can be termed as good as far as I know. But I don't know what do you want it for? Probably to translate the verses or the sutras, but the translation is available. One can translate it without looking for a. I feed a sentence and I get the translated output. So there are there is something in Google, but there isn't a very good such. So, for example, if you give English meaning and Sanskrit translated output would come out. Those things are not not at that level which can be called good or very good. So I think we'll have to close the session now. And I thank you all for your questions. And I encourage you to ask questions. Please don't feel frustrated because there are some limitations. Even I had to undergo some medical treatment, some medical condition was there. So I could not keep up with the time, but don't feel frustrated. We may keep in touch, and we may develop more interest in Pāṇinian grammar. So thank you all, and see you again. And on the occasion of this Ram Navami, I once again salute all of you. Namo Namaha.